Último día aquí en benicàssim y tenemos el placer de compartir este espacio, este set con una de las bandas de las que más se está hablando en el panorama de la música independiente desde Londres, Wolf Alice. What a pleasure to have you here with us finally. It's so good to meet you. Now I'm going to ask you a very loaded question. Do you feel ready to save indie rock and roll?
I said C, which is yes. No, I don't know. That's one of those questions that kind of follows, I think, a lot of hype bands around, and it strange pressure. But we all believe there's a lot of existing great music that's floating around. There's loads of great indie bands. So yeah, I don't think it needs saving, basically.
Le he preguntado si están dispuestos a aceptar la tarea de salvar el indie rock and roll y nos dicen que sí, están dispuestos, pero que obviamente dice que es una exageración porque ellos notan que hay muchísimas bandas que están manteniendo vivo lo que se puede considerar el concepto del indie rock y que no hace falta salvar nada, que está en perfecto estado. But as you say, you know, looking at how, especially the entire world always looks at the British music press because forever your land has been paving the way along with North America, and the rest of the world has followed suit historically. And the sensationalism that is driven in the British music press around bands, around hypes, which actually works in a good way because it gets people excited, and it's nice to get young kids excited about things and us older dogs as well, you know. But at the same time, it's a lot of pressure on some bands. How do you deal with all that extra attention? Is it good for a band? Is it hard to sort of find a way of not getting overbeared with it?
Yeah, I think pressure can be good in some regards because it makes you work hard and you don't settle for something that easy. So in some respects it's good, but I think the biggest pressure comes from yourself and to make, to create what you have envisioned in your head and do it the best you can, and everything else is secondary to that. You shouldn't compromise your work because of pressure from other people or from labels or radio people or stuff like that. But yeah, it can make you work hard, I suppose.
En el Reino Unido obviamente siempre hay una tradición de crear muchísimo revuelo mediático alrededor de bandas por temporadas o algo así. Les pregunto si les parece que es contraproducente para ellos tener que soportar toda esa presión mediática de ser una banda con hype alrededor. Ella dice que no es una cosa que ellos hacen por su propia cuenta, es decir, se ponen su propia presión, no es la presión externa, y que resume diciendo que jamás hay que hacer las cosas por presiones externas, tienes que hacerla por tu propio talante. Also, there's another thing, that the fact that you're from London, and I know what it's like. London is a city where there's lots of things going on, and when you're a band that's loved by everyone and everyone's excited about, can it get a bit distracting? Do you find that sometimes to get in a good creative space you need to escape and find solitary places?
Yes and no for all of us, really. Maybe all four of us are quite different to give an answer for that question. I personally like to go away and take some time away from the city, but at the same time it is one of the most inspiring places in the world, and it's been, the biggest factor of our band, in terms of location. And yes, we've recorded in different places, but not just because we live there, I guess we have friends there, but I think something does pull us back to London, and maybe it is its creativity and its spirit. It does exist there still. It's hard. It's a harder city, but if you can find a place in London to be creative, it's very rewarding.
Les pregunto que si encima al vivir en una ciudad como Londres, donde hay muchísimas distracciones y más cuando eres una banda de la que todo el mundo habla, si ellos necesitan a veces escapar, huir de la ciudad o encontrar espacios ideales para desarrollar la creatividad. Y dice que no, porque Londres en sí es una ciudad muy inspiradora y que sí, que hay muchas distracciones y tal, y que cada uno de los componentes tendría una respuesta diferente a esta pregunta, pero en su caso particular dice que a él se nutre mucho de esa energía que hay en la ciudad y que no es necesario del todo huir para nutrirse de todas las cosas. How is London inspiring exactly?
I guess for me, I wasn't born in London. I was born outside in a county called Surrey, and it just seemed like this magical place where everyone was in a band and everyone knew everyone, and it definitely has a romance from the outside looking in. And I think when you do get there, if you can find yourself in a good spot with musicians like I managed to do, luckily, and with promoters and gigs and stuff, you just get into the cycle of creating. And the reason I say it's hard is because it's not exactly fashioned for people who are creative necessarily, because it's a very expensive city to survive in and stuff. But there's a lot of people in the city still who want to work towards that end goal of being creative and spaces for musicians and stuff. And I think if you can find those people to work with and you get on with them and you're lucky enough to get on with them, it can be really fun.
Le pregunto cómo exactamente inspira Londres a una banda, y él dice que bueno, que él, que viene de Surrey, que es un sitio mucho más tranquilo, que claro, llegar a Londres es muy inspirador porque todo el mundo toca en una banda, conoces a mucha gente de la industria y se facilitan mucho las cosas para no solo entrar un poco en el mercado y conocer a gente que te inspira solo con sus propias trayectorias, sino que además es un sitio que pues eso, no distrae demasiado de la misión central, ¿no? Que es mucho más producente moverte en esos ambientes para despegar una banda. And it's wonderful because stylistically you guys have been able to draw from a rich history of alternative music, shall we say. Can you articulate some of your influences for those who've never heard of you before? What kind of things put you guys together and said, oh, you're into this, oh, we should start a band, that kind of thing?
I always struggle to answer this question because I don't think that's what brought us together. There was no, for example, you and Theo both love the Horrors, and we as a band we all love a few, but stuff that ties us together. A lot of rock music mainly, but it wasn't. I don't think. I always struggle to answer that question. It's not. We never really cite specific influences. I think just what unifies us together is that we love heavy rock music, but we also love pop music, and we all are happy to not just go one way or the other, but to do both. I think that's what unifies us rather than specific bands and genres and stuff.
Yeah.
Les he preguntado por las influencias musicales que hicieron que ellos cuatro se pusieran de acuerdo para juntarse y formar su propia banda, y ella dice que bueno, a pesar de que por ejemplo dos de los componentes les gustan mucho de Horrors, por poner un ejemplo, dice que realmente no es eso, el punto común es que a los cuatro les gustan mucho las guitarras muy pesadas, pero también les gusta mucho un pop más melódico, y eso es el punto de unión para esta banda de Londres. Because this is what is interesting. Music press, we're always, oh yeah, what bands were you listening to and blah, blah, blah. But really, and what I notice is happening with you guys, which is what I like about you, what's made me really interested in you, is that what really makes bands stand out, like yourselves, is a chemistry between the human beings that form part of the band, right? So can you try and put into words, what is the chemistry between all the members in Wolf Alice? Beyond music, beyond bands that you listen to, what kind of things? I'll drop you a little hint. Interpol famously said that one of the reasons they got together was because one of them saw the other wearing Doc Martens, and he said, oh, you must be into this kind of stuff I'm into. But that's a superficial example. It's obviously, I'm looking for an answer that has more to do with philosophy, with the kind of stuff that really gets you excited and passionate.
It's a really good question. I think perhaps what we all are and what kind of has made it work so well for us is that we take our work very seriously, but all four of us are very silly. So we know how to work hard and appreciate all that is happening to us, but never lose sight of how fun it is, and know how to stay grounded and have a laugh at the same time,
Not be like Tom York, taking things way too seriously and being grumpy. Hang on, let me translate before I lose what you just said. Les pregunto que, más allá de las influencias musicales, los grupos que escuchaban y todo esto, quería saber cuál es cómo podrían describirme la filosofía o la química que les ha unido y tal. Y dice que lo que tienen en común es que se toman muy en serio este oficio y sus metas, pero que a la vez tienen mucha capacidad para hacer el tonto o divertirse, digamos, ¿no? O sea, estar haciendo un poco el payaso. Entonces ese equilibrio entre, venga, trabajar seriamente, pero saber cuándo romper un poco la seriedad para que no sea una cosa tan estresante, eso lo llevan muy bien. No, let's go back to the Tom York thing. He's the example of someone, I respect people like that because the great artists of any discipline who have a bit of a reputation for being difficult, you understand them because they're on a level Bjork, Tom York, Picasso, Kanye West, you know, people who've got that little bit of, it's not craziness, but it's something in the psyche that they're so confident with a vision that no one else understands, and for them to really pull the whole, not only band members but management, audiences, press, to understand, right?
Yeah.
Can you guys become a bit difficult justifiably in that sense when you're being creative?
I think maybe sorry, let me tell that. I think maybe over the years things we've regretted is when the four of us haven't followed our gut feeling on decisions. And I think quite early on there was things that we wouldn't have done if we hadn't listened to maybe certain external factors, and you start to learn from that mistake as you get older. And if you haven't been born with all of these like natural kind of drives as you're talking about, which maybe we have, maybe we haven't, you start to learn from, it's more from your mistakes that you learn your drive, and then you think, right, no, next time I am pulling management up on this, I am pulling up the label on this, I'm going to pull each other up on this. And when we went to make our second record, Visions of a Life, there was a great feeling of like, we could listen to the first record and we love it, but the things we didn't want to do again, you know, and that gave us drive in that sense for the new record. And we wanted to play out of our skins, you know, in the recording. We wanted to try different sounds and not be finished with it until we were happy, you know. So I guess it is a natural evolution into that drive for some people like us, rather than being, you know, Brian Wilson genius, or just like mad.
Les pregunto porque citamos ejemplos de gente que consideramos genios de la música o de las artes en general, como puede ser Tom York, Bjork, Picasso, Kanye West, que esta gente tiene fama de ser un poco difíciles, de ser divos, de tener tal, pero se entiende que por eso son tan geniales, porque tienen una visión tan clara de los asuntos, de dónde quieren llegar, que para arrastrar y convencer no solo a los componentes de sus bandas, a los management, a los sellos y al público de su visión, pues a veces tienen que enfadarse un poco y ser un poco difíciles. Y les pregunto si a ellos les pasa que a veces se han puesto un poco difíciles para llegar a ofrecer esa calidad tan buena que hace. Dice que que ellos han aprendido de sus errores, que no es que sean una banda difícil, pero por ejemplo sí que se dieron cuenta que cuando grabaron su primer disco, pues a lo mejor se relajaban en algunos aspectos y al escucharlo están contentos con los resultados, pero a la hora de grabar el siguiente disco dijeron, vale, vamos a apretar un poquito más y vamos a ser un poquito más estrictos con todos, con el sello, con tal, para alcanzar la perfección. So, is it worth pursuing perfection the Japanese way, in that obsessive way, or do you think there are ways of being creative, getting great art across, but also enjoying life a little bit and, you know, breathing from time to time?
Kind of like what Joel was saying before, what we've learned is to always go with your gut, and I think if you do that and it you won't regret anything too much. You know, if it didn't reach your expectation of perfection, you don't beat yourself up about it, because you went with your gut and you tried your hardest and you know, and it you know, and made something good. And there's no end to how much you can work on something when you're doing something creative. So you have to learn just to accept it and love it and move on, you know. So yeah, I don't even believe in perfection anyway, but yeah, it's a good question.
Les pregunto si en esa persecución de la perfección a la japonesa, ¿no? que tienen muchas bandas que llegan tan lejos como han llegado ellos, si se puede, si se tiene que ser obsesivamente, si se tiene que estar si tiene que estar thank God it's edited. Les pregunto si para alcanzar la perfección hay que estar todo el rato obsesionando sobre las cosas, o si uno se puede relajar. Y ella dice que normalmente si te fías de tu instinto y de tus entrañas y de esa sensación de la intuición que tenemos todos, que se puede llegar a las cosas sin acabar estresándose demasiado, y de momento les está funcionando muy bien. Another thing that's, you know, because you're such a popular band, you've become huge and you're demanded all over the world, this means a lot of touring. How are you coping with these agendas where 1 minute you're in Russia and the next minute you're in benicàssim, and it's just airports and mobiles, and you know, you don't really see, you know, is it hard? How are you coping with it so far?
I think in my older age I'm learning that I'm going to have to start appreciating napping much more. Like I was always like, nah, just see it through to the gig, But no, a good 45-minute power nap and you can do anything. You can travel wherever you want, you know. And yeah, just looking after yourself and remembering that the most important reason you're doing this is because of that show at the end of the evening and for the people that are coming to watch you. So just taking your days with that in mind, you know.
And not mucking about,
Not
exactly.
mucking around
yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
Too much. Afterwards, yeah, fine, but...
I learned too late, I learned the hard way. Les pregunto que, claro, al ser una banda tan demandada globalmente, ¿cómo están aguantando estas giras? Que de repente, pues ellos vienen de tocar en Rusia anoche y de repente están aquí en benicàssim, y si es difícil conllevar esos cambios de un lado a otro y tal. Y dice que él ha aprendido mucho la importancia de echarse pequeñas siestecitas, porque al final lo importante es ese concierto que vas a dar esa noche y que todo lo demás no cuenta tanto, entonces es importante estar listo para darlo todo esa misma noche. Well, thank you very much. I hope you have time to have a quick little disco nap, as they say, because...
maybe not this time, but I had it on earlier. I had my siesta earlier. So
oh,
I'm
okay.
fine.
And
Yeah.
you look pretty relaxed, and you know this lovely breeze, and
Yeah.
look at this sunset. You know, so well, look, I personally am really looking forward to your show tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
your
for
time.
joining us.
What you do, like,
Yeah, that was...
You remember the answers and translate them to different
Hang on,
languages.
say it on the microphone. Let my bosses hear that.
Respect, basically.
We're very impressed by your skills there.
You keep saying it without a microphone. All right.
What she said.